Those of us living in the Caribbean are only too aware of the urgent need to drastically reduce global carbon emissions, thanks to our increased vulnerability to the harsh impacts of climate change. It's a point that gets hammered home multiple times each year, but the ever-increasing heat of summer serves as a particularly harsh reminder. During these scorching summer months, the sun itself feels like our greatest adversary, but it's potentially one of our strongest allies in the ongoing fight to decarbonize regional energy systems. This is made possible by solar PV, which turns the unrelenting glare of the sun into an abundant source of power. And this advantage has become increasingly available to Caribbean residents, thanks in large part to government incentives, affordable loans, and advances in solar technology. Indeed, there has been a noticeable increase in solar installations all across the Caribbean, but a full transition at a national level requires a particularly concentrated approach, which is why we wanted to take a closer look at utility-scale solar. In order to get a better understanding, we reached out to Leslie Hufstetler, CEO of Infinigen Renewables in Puerto Rico, and he was able to tell us more about large-scale solar farming and some of the organizational principles involved in the operation of Caribbean solar parks.
We involve our operations team from the very beginning, even in the design phase, because they're the ones that know how these plants are going to perform throughout the life of the facility. It has to last 25, 30 years.
So let's talk about utility-scale solar and its potential role in Caribbean energy reform in this episode of CESaRE Voices. Puerto Rico is no stranger to the kinds of extreme weather events frequently experienced by Caribbean islands. But things came to a head in 2017 when it was struck by two deadly hurricanes, Irma and Maria, within a span of 2 weeks. The hurricanes destroyed approximately 80% of the island's electric grid, leading to a blackout that lasted 328 days and causing severe disruptions in several critical sectors such as communications, water, transportation, and healthcare. In response, the government passed the Puerto Rico Energy Public Policy Act in 2019, with the goal of deriving 100% of the island's energy production from renewable sources by 2050. Infinigen Renewables is one of the entities currently working towards that goal. So to start, could you just tell us a little bit about Infinigen itself?
Infinigen Renewables is an independent power producer, an IPP. We specialize in utility-scale solar systems and as well as battery energy storage systems as well. We do also some commercial and industrial projects up to 5 megawatts, but our area of strength and business model is concentrated on utility scale. We have been in existence since 2011. We're based in San Juan, Puerto Rico, where we have 2 solar facilities in operation. We have our Oriana facility that is in the northwestern part of the island. It generates 45 megawatts of solar, and it is currently the largest operating solar facility in Puerto Rico. We also have a 10 megawatt facility in the southern part of the island, and we also have several projects in our pipeline. We're going to start construction soon on a 32 megawatt project in Yabucoa, which is in the southeastern part of the island, as well as construction on expansions on our current operating assets as well. Our focus is to continue to grow in Puerto Rico as the utility scale opportunities present themselves. There's a lot of opportunities for growth. And eventually we will continue to expand outside of Puerto Rico, the Caribbean. We're looking at different opportunities, as well as Central and South America.
Awesome. And you could also give our listeners, our audience, a better understanding of just what utility scale solar really is. Because I think a lot of people who will be listening to this will be thinking about panels on your rooftop, these sort of personal installations, or even industrial or commercial ones.
Utility scale is no different than seeing a LNG generating facility, or carbon coal plants, or other types of generation, whether it's diesel or natural gas. So rather than using these fossil fuels, the generation comes from the sun. So think of a large field where you have instead of having a few panels on your rooftop, you just have a lot of panels out on a field, and we're generating energy from the sun just like you would at home. The difference is that rather than just generating at home, we are connected to the utilities transmission and distribution system. So it goes into the system and into your home just like any other generating facility would.
Okay. And can we go a little bit more into just how it works with the power grid of Puerto Rico itself?
So Puerto Rico is different from I would say Europe and in the United States, where is an interconnected system between states in the U.S. and countries in Europe. Puerto Rico is an isolated grid, so it's not interconnected to any other power grid. And that is the case in just about all of the Caribbean islands. So in order for this to work properly, you want to have a system that stabilizes the grid. Think of solar as a generating resource that is going to produce power as long as you have sun. So if you have a nice day that not a cloud in the sky, you're producing at 100%. The sun's, you're getting a lot of energy. All of a sudden, you have a cloud cover that covers half of your plant. All of a sudden, your generation is going to drop 50%. The cloud goes away, then it spikes again back to 100%. This can be very taxing on the system. So it is very important that we design our projects to handle these types of fluctuations in the system. So we use that with battery systems. The battery systems, what they do is absorb or power up any decrease in generation. So if you have a cloud, all of a sudden your generation drops, batteries kick in. What does that do? It controls the rate at which your energy is going down. And then same, if it spikes, the batteries will absorb that big spike, and then it ramps back up. The power generation ramps back up in a controlled manner. This avoids causing stress to the system, to the substations, your interconnection points. And so you want to make sure that then that power that you're receiving at home, you're not having any fluctuations in your energy at home.
Okay. And can you talk a bit about this push in Puerto Rico to reach 100% renewable energy by 2050? And I believe there's a shorter term goal as well, right?
There are several tiers of goals that we're looking at. Back in 2017, 2019, Law 17 or Act 17 was enacted, which it made it into a law that energy generation in Puerto Rico will be 100% through renewable resources by 2050. That first tier is reaching 40% by 2025. Now, we are in 2024. We're still in the single digits. So we're far short of that goal. But that doesn't mean we don't have the opportunity to catch up, right, by 2050. So currently, the public utility and the regulator have established a set of RFPs, or requests for proposals, for procuring somewhere around 3.5 gigawatts of solar generation and 1.75 gigawatts of energy storage. The idea is that between both of them, they can provide enough energy throughout the 24-hour day to power up the entire island. This RFP process has been broken down in what they call 6 tranches. We are currently in tranche 1, where there's approximately I would say 650 to 700 megawatts of solar that are going to go online. We have until 2025 to put these projects into operation. And currently, their tranche 2 and tranche 3 are in their own process, running as proposals have been submitted. I think tranche 2 is about to be awarded in, I would say, probably in the next 30 days. Tranche 3 will probably be sometime this summer when it will be awarded, and then there's 3 more tranches to go until eventually we reach that goal. So it's an ambitious goal. We've been a little bit slow getting off the ground, but I'm confident that we'll catch up and reach that goal of 100% by 2050.
We're definitely rooting for you in that regard, and I mean, you have to be ambitious, So I like that you're setting the goalpost pretty high.
I heard this once. It said you have to reach for the stars, and if you don't reach them, at least you're not going to get your hands dirty. If you're reaching
exactly.
So I mean, look, I think that as ambitious as we see it, as we all, and we think it's going to be impossible, I really believe that it's not impossible. The Department of Energy, the United States Department of Energy, along with the National Renewable Energy Labs in the U.S., they conducted a 2-year study on the feasibility of reaching the 100% goal by 2050. And this is called the PR 100 from Puerto Rico 100 advisory group. And this advisory group was made of different stakeholders, people that are experts in energy, renewable energy, community, utility scale, as in our case, technicians, and it was a very healthy group of individuals who gave their input. And the study concluded, it hasn't been published yet, it's going to come out probably next month, but the preliminary findings are that the 100% can be attained. It can be reached through different initiatives that have a combination of rooftop solars at home, energy storage at an industrial scale, and utility scale solar as well. So there is a roadmap, right? It's not a mandate. It's not a law that it has to be followed, but it's a roadmap that if it can be implemented properly, that should be one of the ways to reach that goal of 100%.
Okay, good. So in terms of the advantages or benefits of solar, especially utility scale,
mm-hmm.
So there's the obvious one, which is the carbon emissions and so on. What are some of the other benefits to say Puerto Rico as a country?
Well, like you said, I think it's very important that we try to, and this is not just Puerto Rico. This is worldwide, right? That we need to reduce our carbon footprint. We know that the use of fossil fuels, the burning of fossil fuels, have contributed to climate change and global warming. But also now let's look at it from a financial point of view. The sun is free. And the sunshine, especially in the Caribbean, it shines every day. We have an abundance of sunshine, which is our natural resource. Solar energy is not subject to market fluctuations in the price of your fuel. When we receive our energy bill, we have a basic rate, but then there's an adjustment based on the cost of fuel. With solar, it's very predictable. We have information that tells us, how much sun we're going to get during the year. It's a fixed rate that we charge to utility, and so it's predictable. It's you can budget for that. What disadvantage does it have is that the sun doesn't shine all day, so we can only produce as we have sunlight. However, with the advances of storage of batteries, we're able to prolong the amount of time that we're producing energy. So now you have batteries that can produce up to 6 hours. So now you're putting in, anywhere from 12 to 14 hours of production during the day. So if you have enough, I would say, scale, then you can program to have batteries discharging at different times until you have a cycle of 24-hour production just from solar and storage alone.
As you speak about the equipment, because as you said, they're better like batteries and
the solar panels.
The panels themselves, right? That leads me to another question. I recognize that you've been in this industry for quite some time yourself, right? Can you speak to some ways that the industry itself has changed in that time? Because I recognize there's been a lot of development.
So as the technology continues to advance and improve, you can see now that you can produce more energy with less of a footprint. So before, for example, you could have so maybe 15, 20 years ago, a solar panel, you could get 150 watts out of a panel. Today, we're getting 700 watts. So think about, the panel's a little bit bigger, but you're looking at a considerable reduction in your footprint to, install the panels on any given site. So we're seeing definitely a lot of improvement and efficiency on the panels. We've seen a lot of improvement and efficiency on inverters. Inverters are what convert the sunlight, the energy produced from the sun, into the energy that goes into the grid. So it's what they call AC, from DC current to AC current, which is what we get at home. It's same goes with the batteries. Now batteries last longer. They can take more cycles and they can discharge for a longer period of time, and also reducing the size of the battery modules themselves. So as technology continues to improve, we're seeing better efficiency in panels, inverters, and in batteries. That's how we're seeing a lot of progress in that area.
Okay, and has operating a company like the one that you represent changed significantly as well?
It has. I mean, there are as equipment also improves, it also lowers the cost of your operating, right? Because you have to consider that this is equipment, it's electrical equipment, components, they do wear out and they have to be replaced. So I think one of the big challenges that we have here in the Caribbean is that we're in the tropics, right? So there's a lot of heat, a lot of humidity, a lot of condensation and salt content, right? Salt spray from the ocean. We're close to the ocean. So we have to take into consideration the corrosion on racks, on electrical equipment, and batteries themselves. So some of the things that we've learned is that everything that we install has to have a special coating to protect from accelerated corrosion and deterioration. That adds cost, right? We're susceptible to hurricanes, right? This is a Hurricane Alley. So we need to build robust solar fields that can withstand hurricane force winds. Now, we've seen in different moments solar facilities throughout the Caribbean. We've seen it in the Virgin Islands, in Puerto Rico, how hurricanes have pretty much caused a lot of damage in solar facilities. So that has given us the opportunity to improve the design, the building codes for these facilities to be more robust. And so a well-designed solar plant and well-built will withstand hurricanes, but it adds cost, right? We have to reinforce the structures and make sure that the clamps have the capacity to hold these hurricane force winds. So those are part of the challenges that we have, not just in the building, but in the operations side. Another big challenge that we have is the cost of insurance because of the risk of hurricanes, right? So that's another big challenge that kind of adds cost to our facilities. But these are challenges that we understand, we know that we have to take, and we account for them when we're in the planning phase, when we're doing our financial planning, our designs and construction. And we involve our operations team from the very beginning. even in the design phase, because they're the ones that know how these plants are going to perform throughout the life of the facility. It has to last 25, 30 years. So we have a very competent, very knowledgeable operations team that they go from, you have reactive maintenance, right? When something happens, you have proactive maintenance, and then you have to go into what we call predictive maintenance. Even though, each equipment has a manufacturer's warranties, and they have a manual that says how soon or when you should be doing certain maintenances or replacements, we already know that we have to be ahead of that. So spare parts are important that we have ahead of time, that we make the proper planning to do preventive and predictive maintenance to the plants before things happen, because you need to keep the production going. You can't afford for the power to not be produced.
Makes sense. It causes me to think about like staffing. So we did an episode some years ago where our guest was speaking about, the episode was really about the gap between industry and academia in terms of renewables, right? It was someone in Jamaica who was facing an issue where they were having trouble staffing their company because the universities were not producing people who were, Are you having any similar challenges?
Yes. And it's going to get more challenging as more projects go online in Puerto Rico. So one of the things that we've done, we already are speaking with the universities on the island and collaborating with them to help them understand what our needs are so they can develop a program for renewable energy facilities, especially utility scale. And it's not just the operations and maintenance side, it's also understanding the business as well. Because I think as we produce and we develop technicians and engineers, it's important they understand the business and how this works and why it's important. We're in the energy section, right? Sector. Health and safety is paramount. I can't stress how much emphasis we give on health and safety. As inoffensive as these solar facilities look, just a field of panels, this is a power plant. And if you're not taking the proper precautions, you can have unfortunate events or tragedies, right? And I always tell this to my team, I want everyone that goes to work every day to go home every day safe and knowing that they're being taken care of. So as we develop professionals in this area, health and safety is probably the one that we really hit hard on. Because as you know more, you learn more, you gain confidence, and you feel comfortable doing certain things. We have to just hammer into everyone. He says, as comfortable or as confident as you may feel, health and safety comes first. Never take a chance. Never go out in the field by yourself. Always have everyone know where you are, because you never know, right? But yeah, it's an industry that is an opportunity for academia to develop as well, for professionals that are interested in this area, or even just on the technical side. It's a fun business to be in.
I can imagine. So you guys do utility scale, but I know you also do commercial and industrial installation as well, right? Now, one thing that I understand is that as the industry changes, renewables, especially solar, seem to be becoming more of a sure investment, right? Would you say that that's reflecting in, say, I don't know, the number of installations that you guys have been doing over the years? Is there a ramp up consistent with that trend?
Yeah, I think first of all, you go through different trends. First is you have trendsetters, right? That when they start a new technology and no one knows about it and they're skeptical, you're always comfortable with what's worked. You go home, turn the switch, lights come on, and you don't worry where it comes from. But then as knowledge and an awareness is created about how energy is produced and how expensive it can get and the damage it causes through the types of generation we have, then you have people becoming more aware and then starting to look at new alternatives. From there, you have a group of people to then become, the ones that are the first ones to embrace it, right? And they say, okay, I'm going to try this. So, and I call those the trendsetters, right? And then you have those that follow, okay, it works for you. How does that work? I want to understand a little bit more. And then as it grows, then the industry starts growing as well. So it has really evolved from a mindset where I don't want to make any changes whatsoever because what I have today works. Now it's okay, there's a new technology, let's try it. Oh, it does work. So then it becomes a norm as well. So as we shift from a one type of generation to a better one, we're doing a lot of good in, I guess, doing our part in helping reduce climate change.
Okay. And what prompted your entry into the industry? Like, what made you decide to get into renewables yourself?
So, I mean, I'm an entrepreneur at heart, right? And back in 2009, Puerto Rico enacted an incentives law which wanted to promote renewable energy generation on the island. This was back in 2008, 2009. And as I saw that opportunity, I said, this is a new industry which has a lot of promise. The incentives are outstanding. So I decided to get into it. I am, through, I guess you call it maybe a stroke of fate. I met one of the people who were involved in the drafting of this incentive. And in conversation, we decided to say, hey, why don't we, put this to the test? Let's put this law to the test and develop a project. And so he and I started developing this project back in 2009, which is in operation today, is our Horizon project in the south of the island. And that's how I got into the business. It was just a matter of identifying an opportunity, committing to it, because you have to, when something's new and it's not widely accepted, you have to commit. And then it's that balance between how far do you take it, whether, do you know when to cut your losses or when to push forward? And I decided to push forward. So, today, 15 years later, I'm seeing the fruits of that commitment. And hopefully in the next 5-10 years, this is going to just be where we want it to be.
I love that, because, as we've done this podcast, I've found this time and time again, people that we interview, we find a lot of these people who actually come from all these different, like you say, you're an entrepreneur, you might have an engineer over here, somebody in finance and everything. And I just really love just seeing how all of these skills can be pulled into this climate fight, really, is what, is a big part of it.
Just about everyone that's in this industry, or at least started in this industry, comes from somewhere else because it didn't exist, right? So, so really, it was like, my background. I'm not an engineer, but I've learned enough to be dangerous. And by that I mean ask the right questions. I've learned enough to know what to ask. If you ask me a certain technical question, I'm gonna defer to those that know, right? But at least I know enough to ask the right questions and know if it's the answers in the right direction.
For sure. So at this point, we'd already learned a lot from Leslie. But as usual, we had just one more question we had to ask him. Is there anything that we haven't covered that perhaps you would have wanted to mention?
Look, what I would say, to those that either, they're looking or curious about getting into this industry, I can say that if you're looking for something that where you want to make a difference, where what you do actually, contributes to improve the quality of life of others, this is the industry to look for. Whether you're in the technical side, engineering, whether you're on the finance side, whether you're in accounting, legal, this industry covers all of that. So there's room for many professionals in different disciplines within this sector that there's an opportunity for. If you really want to have a meaningful job where you're making a difference, this is absolutely it. If you are a consumer that are listening and it's about solar energy, have confidence in it. The people that are working in this industry understand, the importance of energy. Energy is something that everybody needs. Everybody needs it. and the demand for energy continues to grow. The lights have to be on 24/7. They're not going to go out. And what we're looking to establish is better reliability, better prices for you at home, and less emissions into the environment. So I guess that's what I would say. If you're a consumer, if you're looking into this industry to get into it, it's a beautiful industry to work in.
The effects of climate change continue to strike at our region with increasing severity, and we can no longer afford the heavy environmental and economic costs associated with our dependence on imported fossil fuel. Our traditional energy systems are simply too fragile and unreliable, often leaving us without power for prolonged periods of time and exposing us to the near constant threat of extreme weather events and global supply disruptions. By harnessing the power of our abundant natural resources such as sunlight, we can secure our energy supply, stabilize our economies, and protect our people. And while this isn't exactly simple, we can absolutely get it done. With the help of independent power producers such as Infinigen Renewables and the support of strategic government initiatives and capacity-building educational programs. Anyway, that's all we have for you in this episode of CESaRE Voices. We'd like to thank our guest for taking the time to share his insights with us. We'd also like to thank our funded partner, the Barbados Environmental Conservation Trust, or BECT, for making this episode possible. BECT aims to help Barbados reach its national development goals by supporting initiatives aimed at environmental sustainability. Of course, we'd also like to thank our listeners for tuning in to the CESaRE Voices Podcast. If you like what you've been hearing so far, feel free to give us a rating wherever you're listening. We'd also like to remind you that you can visit our website, CESARjournal.org/donations, to lend your financial support, or join our monthly donor club on Patreon and gain access to exclusive content, or even be featured in an episode of our podcast. Just click the links in the description. And if you'd like to sponsor an episode of CESaRE Voices and feature your company or NGO, please click on our corporate link to learn more.